Bite Size, a collaborative psychoeducation mini-podcast series created by Healthy Poor and support staff. In case you haven't heard about us, our organizations were created by hospitality, for hospitality, and are actively working to increase knowledge and awareness of mental health in our industry. If you'd like to take your learning a step further, check out the glossary of terms and thought prompts that we have available at www.pleasehustleresponsibly.org.
Hi, thank you for tuning in to our collaborative education series with support staff and Healthy Poor. For those of you who may not be familiar, our organizations are actively working to increase knowledge and awareness of mental health in the hospitality community. My name is Laura Louise Green. I'm a licensed professional counselor and the founder of Healthy Poor, and I'm here to talk about how stress impacts us. In the last episode, we learned that stress is the body and mind's reaction to a change that requires an adjustment or response. But what do these adjustments and responses look like? Well, there are basically two ways we react to stress: physically and mentally. Some physical stress responses are increased heart rate, shallow, quick breathing, perspiration, enhanced senses, enhanced strength, and eventually, fatigue. These physical responses come through because they help our bodies, by way of increased adrenaline and cortisol, focus our energy and strength towards whatever we have to do to overcome or avoid the stressor. Your body is essentially rushing all of its resources into the most primal systems that are ingrained in our biology. We're grateful for these physiological mechanisms when we're running away from a grizzly bear that wandered into our living room, but this kind of functioning is not sustainable long-term and can be very taxing on our bodies. The same is true for our mental stress responses. Our cognitive systems rush all of our energy and resources to those functions that will help us address the stressor. Mental stress responses include hypervigilance, increased anxiety, loss of emotional control, mental slowness, difficulty concentrating, and sometimes dissociation. This makes it very challenging to manage complex tasks and emotions when your brain hyper-focuses on survival. We often become irritable and panicked as our cognitive function simplifies itself. And sometimes, in extreme situations, we dissociate altogether, forgetting the incident, feeling like we've blacked out, or viewing the situation from outside our bodies as if it were happening to someone else. These responses are often categorized as fight, flight, or freeze, as well as the recent addition of fawn. The increased adrenaline, strength, and hypervigilance enables our body to either fight or escape from the stressor. The emotional responses like dissociation, mental slowness, and difficulty concentrating can result in individuals freezing under stress, like when someone can't make a decision in the moment or goes into emotional shock and almost feels paralyzed. The more complex behavioral response to interpersonal stress can lead to a mechanism referred to as fawn. The fawn response is when an individual is experiencing interpersonal stress and appeases the other individual who's causing or inflicting the stress. The fawn response is a slight departure from others, as it is often a learned behavior and is solely a response to interpersonal stress. It's important to emphasize that levels of stress vary, but these physical and mental reactions are there to protect us, though sometimes they might be frustrating. The reality is we're constantly experiencing stress as we move through our day-to-day, but some kinds of stress are more pronounced and challenging to cope with. Again, stress is largely about the perception of the stressor from the individual, so there is no one-size-fits-all formula to talk about stress. If anything, talking about stress is an opportunity to better understand ourselves and develop empathy for others. Now would be a good time to reflect on how you respond to stress. Maybe there's a specific reaction or emotion that you default to. Maybe it changes depending on the environment you're in or who you're with. In an upcoming episode, we'll be talking about coping with stress, so perhaps start thinking about what you do to alleviate stress both in the moment and in general. Thank you for taking the time to learn more about stress with me. Take care of yourself, and we'll see you in the next episode.
Thank you to our donors and our sponsor, Maverick Wine Company, for helping to make this episode possible. To help support this podcast and our other programs, please consider making a donation at www.pleasehustleresponsibly.org. Be sure to subscribe and tune in next time to learn more about mental health.